In the frozen heart of Antarctica, beneath a thick sheet of ancient ice, there was a place the world had forgotten. Buried more than 2 kilometers below the surface, Earth's last military stronghold stood hidden, a vast underground base known only to a few. It was called Black Deep. To the outside world, it didn't exist. But deep within, humans worked day and night, preparing for a future that might never come, or a war that might arrive too soon. Captain James Carter walked through the cold steel corridors of the command center. Tall, broad-shouldered, and calm as the ice above, he was a man used to silence and pressure. His face, marked by a small scar over his left eye, showed no fear, only focus. He had been trained for this world, a world where Earth was no longer the ruler of the stars. Humanity had once dreamed of the stars and reached them. Colonies had spread to Mars, Europa, and Titan. But with expansion came weakness. Earth fell into centuries of war, climate disasters, and chaos. In the vacuum, others rose, older species, more powerful, bound together by law and fear. They formed the Galactic Council, an alliance of advanced civilizations. Earth was left behind, recovering in the shadows, watched closely, never trusted. Carter paused outside a secure room. A door slid open with a hiss, revealing the latest marvel of Earth's rebirth, the Sentinel, a sleek black warship resting in its launch chamber. It was unlike anything the Council believed humans could build. Cloaking systems, gravity-based propulsion, pulse shielding. It was Earth's hidden card, and Carter was its chosen commander. "Everything looks good," said Dr. Elon Park, the lead engineer, handing Carter a datapad. Test flight succeeded. The stealth systems held. "We're ready for mission protocol." Carter nodded but didn't speak. His thoughts were interrupted as a shrill alert echoed through the facility. Lights dimmed. A red hue bathed the command center. A voice crackled through the comms. "Incoming high-level transmission. Galactic Council frequency. Level 0 priority." Silence fell. Everyone in the room froze. Level 0 meant it came from the Council itself, and it wasn't a request. Carter stepped into the main control room. Screens lit up with shifting patterns, then formed into a single large image. A hologram flickered to life, revealing a tall, thin alien with pale gray skin and black eyes that never blinked. His name was Velrix, Supreme Enforcer of the Galactic Council. His voice was smooth, sharp, and final. "People of Earth," Velrix began, "you have delayed your decision long enough. The Council has observed your activities, secret bases, weapons development, forbidden research. You are in violation of Galactic Accord 17.3. His eyes narrowed. "Earth will now comply. Within 48 Earth hours, you will dismantle all military installations, disarm your forces, and submit to Council regulation. Failure to do so will result in complete planetary lockdown. You will be isolated, crushed, forgotten." The screen went black. For a moment, there was only the low hum of machinery. Then Carter's voice cut through the silence. "Record this," he said calmly. "Begin log." He turned toward the team, his eyes steady, his voice clear. "Prepare the Sentinel. Call the Council of Commanders. This isn't just a warning. It's a challenge." Someone asked quietly, "What do we tell the Council?" Carter looked toward the stars on the screen, cold and distant. "Tell them Earth doesn't kneel." Deep within the steel walls of Black Deep, the echo of Velrix's threat still lingered like cold smoke. But Captain James Carter had already moved forward. There was no time to waste. The countdown had begun, 48 hours before the Galactic Council expected Earth to kneel. He stood at the center of the Council chamber, a circular room hidden in the lowest level of the base. Around him sat 12 of Earth's remaining high command, generals, scientists, strategists, and leaders from the colonies still loyal to Earth. Their faces were tired, marked by years of survival and secrecy. None had seen war in decades, but all knew it might return within days. A large screen behind Carter replayed parts of Velrix's warning, the words hanging heavy in the air. "You will be isolated, crushed, forgotten." Carter stepped forward, eyes calm and voice steady. "We've prepared for this moment for years. They thought Earth would remain broken. They were wrong. We have the technology, the intelligence, and the will. Now we must decide if we have the courage." General Hassan Malik, head of the Mars Defense Outpost, leaned forward. "You're talking about open defiance. That means war. We don't have the numbers. We don't need numbers. Carter replied. We need precision. We strike not with weapons, but with a message. One the whole galaxy will hear. Dr. Elon Park spoke next. You plan to reach the Council's main station? That's suicide. No human ship has ever made it past the outer patrol ring. We have the Sentinel, Carter said. Our new stealth ship. It's faster, invisible to their scans, and armed with gravity tech they haven't seen before. We use it to sneak in, hack their network, and send a broadcast, not just to the Council, but to every colony, every station, every outpost. We show them Earth isn't a relic. We show them we're alive. A long pause followed. The room was divided, some intrigued, others afraid. One commander, a woman from Europa, asked, What happens if we fail? Carter answered without hesitation. If we fail, we die in silence. If we do nothing, we live in chains. The Council wants obedience. Let's give them defiance. Slowly, the mood began to shift. Faces once filled with doubt now showed a flicker of belief. Earth had stayed silent for too long. Maybe it was time to speak, loudly. The Council voted. One by one, hands rose in agreement. The mission was approved. Later, Carter returned to the upper levels of the base. The Sentinel sat in its cradle, lights glowing softly along its dark hull. Engineers moved like shadows around it, making final checks. The ship looked alive, like it was waiting. Carter walked to the observation deck, where Elon Park stood. She handed him a small device, a data key. Everything you need to break into the Council's core network. But once you're in, you'll have only minutes. They'll react fast. He nodded. Then we make it count. She looked at him, concern in her eyes. You know there's no backup plan? I know, Carter said. That's why this has to work. That night, Carter stood alone in his quarters. He stared at an old photo on his desk, his family, taken years ago before the Council's control spread. His wife, his son, both gone during the early raids, victims of the Council's pressure campaigns. He closed his eyes. This isn't just about Earth, he whispered. It's about memory, dignity, freedom. Outside, the wind howled across the ice, but inside the base, the fire had been lit. The launch was silent. No flames, no noise, no bright trail in the sky. The Sentinel slipped out of its cradle beneath Antarctica and rose through an underground shaft lined with magnetic lifts. Snow and ice parted above as a hatch opened for the first time in years. The ship vanished into the upper atmosphere like a ghost. Captain James Carter sat in the command chair, watching Earth shrink behind them through the rear display. His expression didn't change. He had waited for this moment most of his life, to fly not just for Earth, but to defend its right to exist on its own terms. Stealth systems stable, said Dr. Elon Park, who had joined the mission as systems lead. Her hands moved quickly across the console. Cloaking field active. No trace emissions. We're invisible. Beside her sat Kai Ren, a sharp-eyed pilot from the Mars colony. He was younger than the rest, but his reflexes and focus made him the best flyer Earth had. He glanced at Carter. Coordinates set. Next stop, Neptune's edge. The target was clear, the Galactic Council station, known as Ares Core, which floated in a perfect ring orbit around Neptune. It was massive, ancient, and heavily guarded. The plan was simple but dangerous. Get close, break into their broadcast system, and send a message strong enough to shake the stars. The crew worked in silence as the Sentinel accelerated through deep space. Outside the ship, the stars stretched like frozen sparks. Inside, tension built slowly, like pressure behind a sealed door. Halfway to Neptune, alarms blinked red across the control panels. Unmarked patrol ship detected, Elon said, her voice calm but alert. Council drone. Unmanned, but scanning. Carter stood. Time to test what Earth's been building in secret. Kai switched to manual controls. I've got this. The drone ship floated ahead, its sensors sweeping the area like a spider's web. The Sentinel remained hidden, but only just. One wrong move, and the drone would trigger an automatic alert to the Council. We're drifting too close, Elon warned. Another 30 seconds, and we'll be caught. Carter didn't flinch. Engage gravity pulse. Elon pressed a command. The ship hummed low, and the gravity disruptor activated. It wasn't a weapon, not in the traditional sense. It warped space around the Sentinel, bending light, sound, and motion. To outside eyes, the ship didn't just disappear, it ceased to exist. The drone drifted by, scanning empty space. Kai let out a breath. That was close. Too close, Carter replied. Next time, we strike first. The ship continued on. Hours passed like minutes. Carter used the time to brief the crew one final time. Once they reached Neptune's orbit, they would have a narrow window, 10 minutes, to break into the broadcast tower. Elon would upload the message. Kai would prepare for instant escape. Carter would oversee it all. But deep down, he knew it might come to more than that. The Council wouldn't stay silent. They wouldn't let Earth's voice rise without a fight. As the ship neared its destination, the stars grew darker, colder. Neptune loomed ahead, a swirling giant, silent and watchful. Around it, the Ares core station sparkled like a crown of metal and light. Kai's voice broke the silence. We're entering the zone. No turning back. Carter looked at the station. So many times, Earth had feared it. So many times, they had stayed quiet. Not tonight. He stood tall. Let them see us, he said. Let them remember who we are. Far above Neptune, in the cold black stretch of space, the Ares core rotated in perfect silence. It was the heart of the Galactic Council, a massive ring-shaped station made of silver alloy and obsidian glass. From this place, laws were passed, empires watched, and threats were erased before they grew. Inside the command chamber, surrounded by curved walls of light and data, stood Velrix, supreme enforcer of the council. His long, pale gray fingers tapped a control sphere as he reviewed the latest intelligence. He moved with stillness, but his mind never rested. He had seen many species rise and fall. Earth was no different, just slower to break. Status on Earth? He asked without turning. A younger council analyst, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms, stepped forward. They have not responded to the ultimatum, High Enforcer. No transmissions. No surrender. Velrix's black eyes narrowed. Typical. Another 8 approached. There was an anomaly 2 hours ago. A momentary energy disruption near Uranus. Possibly cloaked movement. Possibly. Velrix repeated, voice smooth and sharp. We could not confirm, sir. Our drones reported no visual contact. Velrix raised a hand, and the room fell silent. Earth thinks silence is strength, he said. They build weapons in shadows, whisper rebellion in forgotten corners. But they forget who shaped this galaxy. They forget who controls it. He stepped closer to the central command table and called up a projection of Earth, small, blue, distant. They were given peace, protection, order, and yet they choose chaos. Weakness masked as independence. One of the younger council members, seated at a long arc-shaped table, leaned forward. Her voice was cautious. With respect, High Enforcer, if Earth has reached this far with new tech, perhaps we've underestimated them. Velrix turned his head slowly. No, we allowed them to believe in progress, to keep them calm. They were never a threat, and now they are nothing more than noise. The room remained quiet. No one else dared speak. Velrix's reputation was built not just on control, but on fear. He had erased entire systems without hesitation. One message from him could wipe out a species. He believed in order, and Earth, with its stubborn spirit, was disorder incarnate. Suddenly, an alert chimed. A holographic officer reported, there is movement near the Ares perimeter. A cloaked object, faint, but present. It bypassed drone detection. Velrix stared at the projection. A faint ripple, a ship moving without being seen. Not council, not registered. He said nothing for several seconds. Then, Earth. The aide nodded. We believe so. Velrix gave a slow, cold smile. Let them come. Let them try. This ends here. At that moment, in the blackness just beyond Neptune's rings, the Sentinel drifted silently. Its hull shimmered faintly under its cloaking shield. Inside, Captain James Carter watched the Ares core station come into full view. We're in range, said Kai, his voice low. We've never been this close to the council. Carter nodded. Now we show them we're not afraid. In the rear of the ship, Dr. Elon Park prepared the data key. She glanced back at Carter. Once I upload the message, we'll have 2, maybe 3 minutes before they track us. That's enough, Carter said. He stepped closer to the viewing screen, staring at the giant station ahead. Light pulsed around it like a living thing. So many years, Earth had bowed to this structure. So many years, humans had stayed in line. Not tonight. Velrix stood in the center of his command room. staring into the projected darkness where the unknown ship approached. He didn't sound alarmed. He didn't shout. He simply whispered to himself, "Let the insects buzz before they burn." The sentinel drifted like a shadow, quiet and hidden in the darkness beyond Neptune. The massive ring of the Ares core rotated slowly, its surface alive with glowing lights and energy streams. Inside that ring, the most powerful minds in the galaxy sat, unaware of what was coming. Captain James Carter stood at the front of the bridge, eyes fixed on the council station. Every second mattered now. His team worked without speaking, their focus sharp. 30 seconds to breach point, said Kai, hands moving across the controls with speed and care. Dr. Elon Park sat beside a black terminal at the back of the ship, holding the data key, a silver crystal no larger than her finger. Inside it was Earth's final voice, a message written to shake the stars. "We'll only have a few minutes inside their broadcast net," she said. "Once I plug in, they'll see us." "That's all we need," Carter replied. "One shot. We make it count." The Sentinel reached the signal ring, an outer layer of the Ares core used to bounce communications through the galaxy. It was guarded by auto-defense systems, but Earth's cloaking tech was still holding. The ship slipped into a blind spot between two comm towers. Docking clamp engaged, Kai said. "We're latched on." Carter turned to his team. "Let's go." A small hatch at the belly of the ship opened with a hiss. Carter and Elon climbed through a tight crawl tunnel into the transmission interface chamber. It was cramped and cold, with a single open panel exposing the council's data stream. Flowing lines of light and sound, encrypted and pulsing. Elon inserted the data key. The stream paused. Then it opened. Carter stood still, watching as Earth's signal began to spread. Across the council's network, the message activated. Every screen, every channel, every signal feed across the galaxy suddenly blinked. The image of Velrix faded, and in his place appeared James Carter. He stood tall, shoulders back, his face calm and firm. Behind him, the stars of Earth's sky glowed. His voice rang out, clear, strong, and unmistakably human. "To the people of the galaxy, this is Earth. For too long, we have been told we are broken, forgotten, small. For too long, we have lived in silence, beneath the weight of power and fear. But we are still here. We have endured. We have rebuilt. And now we rise. We will not bow. We will not break. We are not your subjects. We are not your past. We are your future." Earth chooses freedom. Across the solar system, colonies paused. On Mars, miners stood still. On Europa, engineers looked up from frozen tunnels. On Titan, schoolchildren saw something their teachers never thought they would see. Earth, standing tall again. Inside the council chamber, Velrix stared at the screen. He didn't blink. The room was silent. "Cut the feed," he said. But it was too late. The message was already embedded. It played on loop across hundreds of channels. Backup signals bounced it from moon to moon. Even council ships couldn't stop it fast enough. "Track the source," Velrix ordered. In the Ares core's outer ring, lights flashed red. "Ship detected," a voice called out. "Cloaking shield compromised." Carter and Elon raced back into the Sentinel. "Engines online," Kai shouted. "But we've got incoming fire." A beam of light ripped past the ship, close enough to shake the hull. The Sentinel dropped suddenly, dodging the second blast. Kai spun the ship through the rings of Neptune like a knife through smoke. More shots followed, plasma bolts, pulse bursts, even a gravity trap. But the Sentinel was built for this. It darted and weaved, its new systems confusing the council's sensors, sending out distortion wave. Elon yelled, hitting a switch. "That'll scramble their targeting." The ship dived through a field of floating debris and fired its gravity pulse behind, bending the space around it. The nearest drone crashed into its own ally. Inside the command room of Ares Core, Velrix's calm began to fade. "Send the fleet," he said coldly. "End them." But the Sentinel was already vanishing. With one final surge, it slipped into the shadow of Neptune and fired its main engine. It was gone, just a ripple in the dark. Back on Earth, the message played again, now protected by 1,000 civilian servers. Velrix stared at the darkness on the screen. He had ruled through fear for decades. He believed no one would dare challenge the Council. And yet, Earth had. The Sentinel hurtled through space, its hull scorched, engines glowing hot from the escape. The blackness around Neptune was no longer silent. It burned with light and movement. Council ships were everywhere, swarming like hornets from a disturbed nest. Inside the cockpit, Captain James Carter leaned forward, eyes locked on the path ahead. Sweat lined his brow, but his voice stayed steady. Status. Kai didn't look up from the controls. Shields holding, but we're running hot. They're trying to trap us in Neptune's gravity well. Dr. Elin Park glanced up from her console. I'm rerouting power to the pulse coils. One more hit like that, and we lose the drive. Carter nodded. Then we don't get hit again. Outside, Council interceptors closed in. Smaller and faster than the Sentinel, they danced across the stars with cold precision. Bright blue plasma lit up the darkness as the first volley of shots screamed past the ship's wings. Kai banked hard to the left. The Sentinel dipped and rolled, slipping between the shots, the ship's hull groaning with stress. Earth's newest tech was being pushed to its limit. They're using predictive fire grids, Kai said. They're guessing where we'll be, not where we are. Then don't be predictable, Carter said. Get us into the asteroid field. Ahead, a cloud of ice and rock spun silently in orbit, the Neptune belt, a natural shield and a dangerous maze. One wrong move could tear the ship apart. But inside that field, sensors didn't work well. It was their only chance. The Sentinel plunged into the belt. Chunks of ice the size of buildings passed within meters of the ship. Elin locked in the stabilizers. Kai flew with calm fingers, guiding the ship through tight spaces where no Council ship could follow. A blast struck the rear shield. Not a direct hit, but close enough to shake the deck. Minor damage to aft fins, Elin reported. Still flying. Carter turned his attention to the rear screen. One interceptor followed them in. It was smaller and more agile, built for close pursuit. He's fast, Kai muttered. Then we make him too fast, Carter said. Lead him to Sector 9 of the belt. Kai didn't ask questions. He spun the ship sharply and pushed the throttle. The interceptor followed, moving fast, too fast. It weaved through the debris until the belt thickened. Rocks turned to walls. Pads narrowed. That's it, Elin whispered. Almost now. Carter hit the gravity pulse. The ship surged forward, and behind them, the interceptor crashed into a spinning boulder the size of a tank. The explosion lit up the belt in blue flame. Direct hit, Kai confirmed. One less to worry about. But more were coming. On the radar, 7 new Council signals appeared outside the belt, waiting for them to emerge. They're surrounding the exit corridor, Elin said. They know we can't stay in here forever. Carter thought quickly. They're watching for a ship. Let's give them something else. He pointed to the drone bay. Send out the decoys. Activate burn signatures. Make it look like we're escaping in 5 directions. Elin moved fast. Moments later, 5 small drones launched from the ship, each cloaked in a false engine trail. The belt lit up with fake movement. Outside, the Council ships scrambled, splitting off to chase the signals. Now, Carter shouted. Full speed through the blind zone. Kai punched the engine. The Sentinel rocketed through a narrow pass in the asteroid field. It skimmed the edge of a rotating ice slab, then burst into open space on the far side. No Council ships in sight. We did it, Elin said, barely believing her own words. Not yet, Carter replied. Set course for Earth. Maximum burn. As the ship sped home, Carter leaned back, breathing for the first time in hours. But even as the adrenaline faded, something inside him stayed sharp. He turned to the others. They won't stay quiet, he said. Velrix isn't used to losing. Elin nodded. But the message got out. Every colony saw it. Carter's eyes narrowed. Then we just gave the galaxy a choice. Back on Earth, deep beneath Antarctica, Black Deep Base received the signal. The Sentinel was alive. A cheer echoed through the cold metal halls. People embraced, cried, and looked to the skies. And across the solar system, in quiet bunkers, on dusty colonies, inside sleeping cities, Earth's message played again. We will not bow. We will not break. We are not your past. We are your future. The Sentinel soared through Earth's upper atmosphere, a dark streak against the morning sky. Its hull was scorched, its shields drained, but it was alive. It had returned. As the ship descended, the towers of Black Deep Base opened, welcoming their defenders home. Inside the command deck, a hush fell as Captain James Carter, Dr. Elin Park, and Kai Ren stepped off the landing ramp. Soldiers and engineers lined the path, standing straight, their eyes filled with awe. For years they had waited, hidden in the shadows. Now they had proof that Earth could still rise. Carter looked around the room. Tired faces, but proud ones. Some clapped. Others simply nodded. The silence carried more meaning than words. General Hassan Malik approached and saluted. The galaxy heard you, James. Every colony, every station, even some council worlds. Your message is being shared faster than they can block it. Carter gave a small nod. Good. That means it worked. The victory wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was in the quiet looks between people who had waited too long to be seen. It was in the silent pride of knowing they had struck first and survived. Elsewhere, the stars were beginning to stir. On Mars, workers in the underground mines stopped their drills. Screens glowed in every tunnel. Carter's message echoed through the dust. We are not your subjects. On Europa, scientists shared forbidden files. They gathered in labs to decode council tech and open secure channels. A professor whispered, if Earth can speak, maybe we can too. On Titan, where settlement leaders had always bowed to the council, something shifted. They called for a vote, their first in a decade, to decide whether to cut communications with Ares core. Even among council species, the silence was breaking. Whispers moved through trade hubs and research stations. Some asked questions they were never allowed to ask. Why did the council lie about Earth's weakness? Why did they hide Earth's progress? What else have they hidden? And inside the Ares core, Velric sat alone in his chamber, his black eyes fixed on a still frame of James Carter's broadcast. The humans had done something no one expected. They had reminded the galaxy what defiance looked like. One of his aides entered, cautious. Sir, the colonies are restless. Velric didn't answer right away. He stared at the screen, jaw clenched. They won't win, he said at last. Should we prepare the fleets? Velric finally looked away. Not yet. Let them burn their hope a little longer. Back on Earth, Carter stood on the roof of the base, looking up at the sky. The stars were bright tonight. Peaceful. But he knew peace was fragile. Elin joined him, standing silently beside him. They'll come, she said. Carter nodded. I know. But this time, they'll find us ready. Behind them, new ships were being built in underground hangars, sleeker, faster, stronger. Engineers worked through the night. Communications officers received signals from Mars, Europa, Titan, not asking for help, but offering it. Carter looked toward the horizon. This isn't just a victory, he said quietly. It's a beginning. From the darkness, Earth had spoken, and now the stars were listening.